when you, the sampling methods are one of the places where you can have something to say when you're reading journal articles. Um, I gave you the rule of thumb for sample size. And so as you read through sampling sections in journal articles, you can have something to say. You can critically evaluate what you think about the sampling method that the author used in relation to non-probability or probability sampling, in relation to external validity. You should have something to say about the external validity and the limitations of a sampling method. You can talk about sample size. You can talk about sampling frame, whether the sampling frame was appropriate for the research problem. So this is one place where you can have a lot to say in a journal article in terms of evaluating the appropriateness of the sampling method to the research design. So in terms of practice, let's take a look at some of these examples, because this is what your exercises are going to look like. Let's look at number 1. A researcher assessing critical thinking skills among students at different levels in their educational experience randomly selected 20% from the population with 24 or less credit hours. Okay, so 20%, let's say the 20% were freshmen, and then 35% were with 25 to 36 credit hours. So this is first semester freshmen, let's say. These folks were sophomores. These could be first or second semester freshmen with the number of credit hours we typically find in community colleges. 30% of the sample with 37 to 50 credit hours. So these people are at basically the end of their sophomore year, let's say. And 15% with 51 credit hours and above to match the distribution of the population. What kind of sampling method would you say this is? Well, first of all, one hint here is it says that the researcher randomly selected. So we definitely have a probability sampling method. Anytime you see that some random selection was part of the procedure, you have a probability sampling method. And the researcher matched the distribution in the population on number of credit hours, the distribution of credit hours. And selected in proportion for the sample. So this was a stratified random sampling method. Stratified on number of credit hours the students had achieved. Okay, let's look at number 2. A researcher studying student success for at-risk students selected 30 students who were first-generation students and placed below college level on the placement test. Studying student success for at-risk students selected 30 students who were first generation and basically placed below college level on the placement test. So there's no mention here of any randomness. This is a non-probability sampling method. And clearly the researcher is defining at risk with these two characteristics: first generation and placing below college level. Those are the definitions for at-risk. So we're studying student success of at-risk students, and I'm selecting my sample from these people, first generation and below college level. I'm only selecting 30 of them. This is non-probability and it's purposive. I am purposely selecting students from first generation and below college level to study student success of at-risk students. Purposive. Even the sample size itself, you can tell this is not probably going to be a quantitative study because it probably doesn't get high enough in terms of being able to represent the population of at-risk students. Let's look at number 3. A researcher grouped the graduating high school seniors by high school, then randomly selected high schools, then randomly selected a sample of seniors from each of the high schools for a survey about college choice. Well, this is the example I gave you when we were talking about multi-stage. There are words in here that are key words: randomly selected, randomly selected. So this is a probability sampling method, and it is multi-stage. So the first stage was to group into clusters of high school. And then, so we grouped by cluster, by high school, randomly selected the clusters, and then randomly selected a sample of seniors from each of the high schools. So we have multi-stage, cluster, and then simple random sampling. Those are 3 examples. And that's the end. You should be set to go to be able to do the sampling method exercises. Thank you.